The Greyhound dropped me off in Duluth 3 months ago with $47 and a duffel bag that smelled like cigarettes and broken promises. I wasn't running from anything specific, just the kind of restless ache that builds up when you're 23 and every door in Minneapolis has slammed shut. My cousin Niels said there were jobs up north, near the lake. Tourism money, he'd promised over a crackling phone connection. Easy work. Easy work turned out to be the overnight shift at the Tim Hortons on Superior Street, 3 blocks from the harbor where ships horn their way through fog thick enough to chew. The manager, a broad-shouldered woman named Astrid Johansson, hired me on the spot. Her handshake felt like gripping lake ice. "You ever worked nights before, Jake?" she asked, studying my face like she was reading tea leaves. "Some," I lied. "Good. Because days here are different than nights." She pulled a laminated card from her desk drawer. "These aren't suggestions. They're survival." The card listed 7 protocols. Nothing dramatic. Just odd little procedures about coffee temperatures and customer interactions. Astrid's pale blue eyes never left mine as I read. "Questions?" "Why the specific times?" I asked, pointing to Protocol 3. Her smile tightened. "Duluth's old, kid. Older than the shipping logs show. This cafe sits where the Ojibwe used to gather wild rice before the harbor expansion. Sometimes old places remember things." She stood up, smoothing her apron. "But that's just local folklore. The real reason is customer service standards." I should have paid more attention to how her voice dropped on that last sentence. The first 2 weeks passed quietly, truckers stopping for coffee before hitting Highway 61. Insomniacs nursing double-doubles while staring at the lake. Shipping crews grabbing breakfast sandwiches before dawn shifts. Normal people doing normal things. But after midnight, when the harbor lights blur into watercolor smears and the fog rolls in like spilled milk, the cafe changes. The fluorescent fixtures hum different notes. The espresso machine gurgles sounds that almost form words. And sometimes, when the wind picks up off Lake Superior, the front door chimes play a melody I've never heard, but somehow know by heart. Last night, something tested the protocols. Tonight, I'm writing this down because Astrid called in sick. First time since I started, and her replacement never showed. It's just me and the rule card until sunrise. The fog's already creeping up from the waterfront, and my shift started 20 minutes ago. The first customer should arrive soon. I can hear footsteps echoing off the brick buildings outside, slow and measured, like someone counting their way to the door. Time to see if these protocols actually mean anything. After 2 a.m., the cafe is all soft machine noise, fridge hums, pastry case ticks, snow tapping the glass. I'm wiping down the menu board when a white light sweeps across the wall, slow and steady, like a search beam. It glides over the espresso machine, the stacked cups, my hands, and keeps circling, left to right to left, counting the room like an eye that never blinks. There's no car in the lot, no plow. Still, the light keeps coming, and each time it passes the pastry case, a thin line of water crawls down the inside like rain on a ship's window. I step to the front glass. For a heartbeat, the parking lot isn't a lot. It's a black cliff with cold surf booming below, moon broken to silver coins on the waves. A bell rings from far away, deep and lonely. The beam cuts through the cafe again and stops on the to-go counter. A cup I didn't set there is waiting. Lid on, sleeve snug, a wet ring blooming underneath. The ticket printer coughs and spits a single slip face-up on the mat. It doesn't say a drink. It says keeper. The light sweeps one last time and halts at the door, bright enough to make the glass glow. Something stands on the other side. Nothing I can see, only the outline it pushes out of the snow, head high, shoulders dripping. The bell tolls once. Close now. Water threads under the threshold and chills my shoes. Then the beam blinks out, and in the sudden dark, knuckles tap the glass twice. My hand finds Astrid's protocol card in my apron pocket. The lamination feels warm against my palm. Protocol 1, between 2 a.m. and 2:15 a.m., if someone requests the keeper's brew, serve them the house dark roast at exactly 180 degrees. Do not speak, do not make eye contact, accept no payment. The knocking comes again, softer now. 3 taps, pause. 3 more. I unlock the door. Cold air rushes in, carrying the smell of lake water and something else. Wet wool, maybe. Old rope. The figure steps forward, and I catch sight of weathered canvas boots, the kind longshoremen wore back when the ore boats still ran regular routes to the Sulaks. The keeper's brew, the voice says. Not harsh or whispered, just flat, like words spoken underwater. I move to the coffee station without looking up. The dark roast pot sits half full from the evening shift. I grab a large cup, checking the thermometer on the brew station. 178 degrees. Close enough. The coffee pours thick, darker than it should be, with foam that swirls in patterns like oil on water. When I turn around, the customer is standing at the counter. Still can't see much. Just a wool coat that's seen better decades. Hands pale as birch bark, water dripping steadily from somewhere onto the tile floor. Each drop hits with a sound like coins falling. I slide the cup across the counter. The customer's fingers wrap around it, and for a second I see them clearly. Blue-white, with nail beds dark as bruises. The kind of hands that have been in cold water too long. Much obliged, the voice says, and the customer turns toward the door. That's when I notice the footprints. Not boot prints. Bare feet, long and narrow, with water pooling in each impression. They lead from the entrance to the counter, but there's another set leading away. These head toward the back of the café, past the restroom, toward the storage area where we keep the supply shipments. The door chimes as the customer leaves, but the second set of prints remains, dark against the white tile. I grab a mop and follow the trail. It leads to the storage room door, which should be locked. The handle turns easily under my hand. Inside, boxes of coffee beans and paper products sit stacked against the concrete walls. But there's something else. A rectangle of space where the floor tiles are different. Older. Darker. Like a patch that was replaced after something got damaged. The wetness ends there, right at the edge of those old tiles. From somewhere beneath the floor comes a sound like breathing, slow and patient. I back out of the storage room and lock the door behind me. The protocol card crinkles as I pull it out again, scanning for anything about storage areas or sounds from below. Nothing. Just 6 more protocols, each stranger than the last. Outside, the harbor fog is rolling in thick, turning the streetlights into fuzzy halos. The shipping channel foghorn moans once, long and low, like something calling from the deep. I check the clock above the register. 2:16 a.m., 98 minutes until the next protocol kicks in. The mop water turns black when I clean up the footprints. Not coffee spill black or mud black, but the deep absence of light you see in the harbor when the moon's dark and the water stretches toward nothing. I dump it down the utility sink 3 times before the color fades to gray. By 2:45, the cafe feels normal again. The espresso machine settles into its regular rhythm. The pastry case stops that odd ticking, and the harbor fog retreats enough to let the streetlights shine through. I'm restocking napkin dispensers when headlights sweep across the front windows. A Subaru Outback pulls into the lot. Minnesota plates, rust eating the wheel wells. The engine idles for a moment before cutting out. Through the windshield, I see a woman checking her phone, then gathering something from the passenger seat. When she steps out, the dome light catches gray, streaked hair pulled back in a loose bun and wire-rimmed glasses hanging from a beaded chain. She looks like a librarian, or maybe a social worker, the kind of person who keeps emergency granola bars in her purse and knows everyone's name at the post office. The door chimes as she enters, bringing cold air and the scent of vanilla hand lotion. She approaches the counter with a tired smile, clutching a worn leather purse against her coat. "Hi there," she says. "I know it's late, but I was hoping you might have some of that seasonal blend. The one with the cinnamon notes?" I glance at the protocol card tucked under the register. Nothing about seasonal blends or cinnamon. This seems like a normal customer making a normal request. "We've got the dark roast brewing, and I can make you something fresh if you'd like," I offer. Her smile widens, but something shifts behind her glasses. "Oh, that's very kind. But I was really hoping for the seasonal blend. You know the one. It's only available during the shipping season, when the boats are running." My fingers tighten on the counter edge. The last ore boat left the harbor in January. It's March now. Ice still thick enough on the lake to walk on if you were crazy enough to try. "Ma'am, I'm not sure we have that particular." "Of course you do." Her voice stays pleasant, but her eyes fix on mine with the intensity of someone trying to hypnotize a rabbit. "It's the one they serve to the families when the boats don't come home." The fluorescent lights flicker once, twice. In the brief darkness between flickers, her reflection in the front window shows something different. A younger woman in the 1970s coat, hair styled in tight curls, glasses with thick black frames. Then the lights steady, and she's gray-haired again, smiling that patient librarian smile. I pull out the protocol card with shaking hands. Protocol 2. If someone asks for the seasonal blend, or mentions boats not coming home, direct them to table 7. Serve hot chocolate, extra marshmallows. Stay until they finish drinking. Do not leave them alone. Table 7 sits in the corner near the back window, the one that faces the harbor. The vinyl seats are patched with duct tape, and the table surface bears coffee rings from 1,000 late-night conversations. A laminated placard reads, "Reserved," in faded letters. "Right this way," I say, gesturing toward the corner. She nods and walks to the table with steps that make no sound on the tile floor. When she settles into the booth, her purse makes a soft thud against the seat like it's full of stones. "Hi, everyone. Before we move forward, I have something exciting to tell you. Many of you asked for stories without the strange rules, so I created a brand new channel just for that. It's called Mr. Grimm Archive. The link is in the description, or you can click the card above. I think you'll really enjoy it. So check it out whenever you want some more exciting types of stories. Also, I hope you're enjoying the 2 uploads a day. Let me know in the comments if you like some stories from your location. Now, let's continue with today's story. I prepare the hot chocolate at the drink station, adding extra marshmallows as instructed. The powder smells different than usual. Not chocolate, but something earthy and complex, like cedar chips and lake water. When I pour the hot water, the mixture swirls into patterns that look almost like faces, mouths open as if calling out. She's staring out the back window when I approach with her drink. The harbor lights reflect on her glasses, tiny stars scattered across dark lenses. "Thank you, dear," she says without looking away from the glass. "It's been such a long wait." I set the cup down and take the seat across from her, feeling odd about it, but remembering the protocol's instructions. stay until they finish drinking. "Are you from around here?" I ask, trying to make conversation. "Oh, yes," she says, lifting the cup with hands that seem more solid now, less translucent. "My husband worked the boats. The Edmund Margareta, beautiful ship, steel gray with white trim. They called her the Pride of Superior. The name doesn't ring any bells, but I nod anyway." "What did he do on the ship?" "Engineer," she says, taking a sip. The marshmallows bob and disappear beneath the surface. 23 years running ore from the Mesabi Range down to Detroit. Never missed a season until 1978. 1978. The year the Edmund Margareta went down in the November storm, taking all hands with her. I remember the story now from a maritime museum exhibit I visited during my first week in Duluth. 32 men lost when the ship broke apart in 20-foot swells just outside Thunder Bay. "I'm sorry," I say, meaning it. "Don't be sorry, dear. It wasn't your fault." She drinks again, more deeply this time. The hot chocolate level drops faster than it should, like the cup has a leak. I just wanted to let him know I kept the house. Kept it exactly like he left it. His coffee cup still sits by the kitchen sink. His work boots by the front door. The back window starts fogging with condensation, even though the heat in the cafe is set low. Shapes form in the mist. Not random patterns, but deliberate marks. Letters, numbers, coordinates maybe, or radio frequencies. "He was supposed to come home that Christmas," she continues. "Had shore leave approved and everything. I bought a tree, wrapped his gifts, made his favorite cookies. Molasses with walnuts. The cup sits empty now, though I never saw her finish drinking." She places it carefully in the center of the table and looks directly at me for the first time since sitting down. "Do you think he knew about the storm coming?" Her eyes are different now. Younger, brighter, filled with the kind of hope that only exists when you're still waiting for someone to walk through the door. "I think he knew you were waiting," I say, surprising myself with the answer. She smiles, really smiles this time, and for a moment, she looks exactly like the woman in the window reflection. Pretty, optimistic, wearing a coat that was fashionable when the world was smaller and storms seemed less likely to steal the people you loved. "Thank you," she says, standing. "That's all I needed to hear." She walks toward the front door, her footsteps still silent, her purse still heavy with whatever she carries. At the threshold, she turns back once. "The next one's harder, dear. But you'll do fine. You have kind eyes." The door chimes as she leaves. Through the front window, I watch her Subaru pull out of the lot and disappear into the fog, taillights fading like dying embers. The back window is still fog, but now the shapes and the condensation have changed. Instead of coordinates, there's a message written in a shaky hand. "Thank you for the hot chocolate. Tell Astrid the boats remember." I check the clock. 3:41 a.m. 13 minutes until Protocol 3 kicks in, and I still don't know what it involves. But somehow, I'm not as scared as I should be. The woman was right about one thing. The next one will be harder. But maybe that's the point. At 3:54 a.m. exactly, the phone rings. Not the business line. That one's been disconnected from maintenance since Tuesday. This ring comes from the old rotary phone mounted on the wall behind the coffee station, the red one with the coiled cord that Astrid keeps for emergencies only. I didn't even know it worked. The sound cuts through the cafe like a fire alarm, sharp and insistent. I count 7 rings before it stops, then starts again immediately. 7 more rings. Silence. Then again. I grab the protocol card with sweaty palms. Protocol 3. Answer the red phone on the 7th ring of the 3rd sequence. Listen carefully. Write down what you hear. Do not hang up until they hang up first. Do not speak unless they ask your name. The third sequence starts. 1 ring, 2, 3. My hand hovers over the receiver, counting. 4, 5, 6, 7. I lift the handset. Static fills my ear, the kind you hear between radio stations late at night when the atmosphere bends signals from places that shouldn't exist. Underneath the white noise, something else. Voices, distant and layered, like a conversation happening at the bottom of a well. Can't find the channel markers. Water's coming in fast. Tell my wife I tried to. SOS, SOS, this is the Iron Dawn. We are taking on water approximately 15 miles. The voices fade in and out like weak radio transmissions, overlapping and cutting each other off. I scramble for a pen and the order pad, scribbling down fragments as they come through. Engine room flooded. Repeat. Engine room flooded. Can anyone hear this? Anyone at all? 37 souls aboard, requesting immediate assistance. A new voice cuts through the static, clearer than the others. Younger. Scared. Hello? Is someone there? Can you hear me? The protocol said not to speak unless they ask your name, but this sounds like a direct question. I clear my throat. Yes, I can hear you. Relief floods the voice. Oh, thank God. Listen, we're in trouble out here. The storm came out of nowhere, and our radio's been down for hours. I've been trying every frequency I can find. Through the static, I hear other sounds. Wind howling, metal groaning, water rushing against something hollow. My hand tightens on the receiver. What's your location? I ask, forgetting the protocol. We're about 15 miles northeast of Duluth Harbor, the Iron Dawn out of 2 harbors. We were running empty back from Thunder Bay when the weather turned. Captain's unconscious. I'm the first mate. The voice breaks off. What's your name? I ask. Tommy Kowalski. I'm just the cook, but I'm the only one left who can work the radio. Are you Coast Guard? No, I stop myself. How do I explain that I'm a barista, taking a supernatural phone call in the middle of the night? I'm on shore. I can call for help. That would be static surges drowning out his words. When it clears, his voice sounds different. Older, more distant. Been trying to reach shore for so long. Do you know what year it is? It's 2024. Silence stretches so long I think the call has dropped. Then, 2024. Jesus. We went down in 82, October 15th, 1982. My mouth goes dry. I flip through the order pad pages, looking at what I've written. Ship names, distress calls, fragments of conversations. All from different decades, judging by the radio protocol and language. Tommy, I say carefully. Where are you calling from? The pilot house. Well, what's left of it? Water's up to my chest now, but the radio still works. Funny thing about Lake Superior, she preserves things. Keeps them just like they were. His voice carries a sad kind of wonder. We've been broadcasting for 42 years, hoping someone would hear us. You're the first to answer. I lean against the wall, legs suddenly weak. How many of you are there? Tonight? 15 crews that I can count. The Iron Dawn, the Margaretta, the Carl Bradley. Though that one went down in Lake Huron, so I'm not sure how they're getting through. Ships find each other down here. Form little convoys of the lost. The Margarita, the woman's husband from earlier. Tommy is there, an engineer named... I check my notes from the previous customer. From the Edmund Margarita. His wife was here earlier. Excited static. Eric Johansson? Sure, I know Eric. He's been asking about his wife for years. Worried sick about how she's managing without him. Johansson. Like Astrid. My manager. Tell him. I pause, remembering the widow's words. Tell him she kept the house exactly like he left it, and that she's been waiting. I'll pass it along. Tommy's voice brightens, then fades again. Listen, I need to ask you something important. Are you the night keeper? The what? The night keeper. Every few years, someone new starts answering our calls. They usually only last a few months before they can't take it anymore. But the ones who stay, who really listen, they become our connection to the living world. They help us pass messages to family, let people know we're still out there. I think about Astrid's pale blue eyes, the way she knew exactly which protocols to write down, how she's never missed a shift until tonight. I think my manager might be a night keeper. Astrid Johansson? Eric's daughter? Tommy's voice warms. She's been taking our calls for 23 years, best keeper we ever had, but she's getting tired, and we've been hoping someone new would come along. Astrid is Eric's daughter, the widow's stepdaughter, maybe, or daughter-in-law. That explains the protocols, the way she hired me so quickly, why she looked at me like she was reading tea leaves. Tell me, how do I help? What am I supposed to do? Just listen. Write down what we tell you. When people come to the cafe asking about lost ships or missing family, you'll know what to say. You become the bridge between the water and the land. The static grows louder, more insistent. Other voices push through, men calling out coordinates, weather reports, final messages to loved ones. A chorus of the lost, broadcasting from the bottom of the lake. I have to go, Tommy says. The signal's getting weak and other crews need to use the frequency. But we'll call again tomorrow night. Same time. Wait, I call out. How do I find Astrid? She called in sick, but she's not sick. Tommy's voice fades as static takes over. She's saying goodbye. Check the harbor at dawn. She'll be at the breakwater where her father used to fish. The line goes dead. I set the receiver back in its cradle with shaking hands and look at my notes. 3 pages of fragments, names, dates, final messages, coordinates that lead to graves at the bottom of Lake Superior. 42 years of voices calling out from the dark water, hoping someone would hear. The cafe feels different now. Not haunted exactly, but occupied. Like I'm sharing the space with memories that refuse to fade. The coffee smells richer, the lights seem warmer, and when I look out at the harbor fog, I can almost see shapes moving beneath the surface. Hulls and masts and running lights that haven't burned for decades. I check the clock. 4:23 a.m. Less than 3 hours until dawn, and 4 more protocols to go. But first, I need to call Astrid. Not her home number, the one she gave me for emergencies, the one that rings the phone booth at the end of the breakwater where her father taught her to cast for lake trout when she was 7 years old. Because if Tommy's right, this might be my last chance to talk to her before she joins the voices on the radio, broadcasting her own messages from the deep water where all the lost ships gather to remember what it felt like to sail under an open sky. I pick up the business line and dial. 1 ring, 2, 3. On the 4th ring, Astrid answers. I was wondering when you'd call, she says. I was wondering when you'd call, Astrid says, her voice carrying the sound of waves against rocks. Tommy told me I'd find you at the breakwater, I say, clutching the phone tight enough to leave marks. Astrid, what's happening? Why didn't you tell me about the protocols? About what they really mean? A pause. In the background, I hear the distant clang of bell buoys and something else. Voices singing. faint but clear, like a church choir practicing in an empty cathedral. "Because you needed to experience it first," she says. "Anyone can follow rules, Jake. But being the night keeper requires understanding why the rules exist. You can't fake that kind of knowing." "Are you really Eric Johansson's daughter?" "Stepdaughter. My mother married him when I was 12. He taught me to read the lake, to listen for the ships that never made it home. When he went down with the Margareta, I inherited more than just grief." Her voice grows softer. "I inherited responsibility." Through the cafe's front window, I watch the harbor fog shift and swirl, forming shapes that might be masts or might be imagination. "Tommy said you've been doing this for 23 years. 23 years of midnight calls, of serving coffee to people who died before I was born, of carrying messages between the living and the lost. It changes you, Jake. Makes you part of something larger than just one life, one shift, one town by a lake. And now you're leaving? Now I'm joining them. There's a difference." She pauses, and I hear water lapping against stone. The lake's been calling for months. Every night the pool gets stronger. Tonight, when the fog lifts at dawn, I'll walk the breakwater until the stones run out. After that, you'll be one of the voices on the radio. Maybe, or maybe I'll find peace. Either way, the cafe needs a new keeper. Someone who understands that some jobs aren't just about serving coffee. A bell chimes somewhere in the distance, not the door chime, but something deeper, older. Ship's time, marking the passage of hours that don't exist on land. "I don't know if I can do this," I admit. "You've already started. The keeper's brew, the widow's hot chocolate, the radio calls. You handled them perfectly, better than I did my first few nights." I hear her smile in her voice. "The lake chooses its own, Jake. It chose you the moment you walked into my office looking for work. The cafe's back door rattles once, twice, not wind, something trying the handle from outside. I check the protocol card. Protocol 4. If the back door rattles between 4:30 and 5 a.m., do not answer it. Turn all lights off except the emergency exit signs. Sit behind the counter and count to 300. The rattling will stop. Do not look outside until morning. Astrid, Protocol 4 is starting." "The back door? Yes. Then you need to hang up. Follow the protocol exactly, Jake. This one's different from the others. This one tests whether you understand that some doors should never be opened." The rattling comes again, more insistent now. The handle turns left, then right, like someone checking to see if it's locked. What's behind the door? Things that got tired of waiting in the water. Things that want what we have: warmth, breath, the chance to feel solid ground under their feet again. They're not evil, just desperate. And desperation makes people do dangerous things. The rattling stops. Footsteps circle the building. Heavy boots on asphalt, moving with purpose. They pause at each window, and I swear I see shadows shifting against the glass. "I have to go," I whisper. "Jake, remember, don't look outside. Whatever you think you see, whatever you think you hear, don't look. The emergency lights will keep you safe." The line goes dead. I fumble for the light switches, plunging the cafe into near darkness. Only the red exit signs remain, casting everything in a hellish glow that makes the coffee machines look like sleeping monsters and turns the menu boards into tombstones. The back door rattles again, not the handle this time, but the entire door frame, like something large is throwing itself against the other side. I drop behind the counter and start counting. 1, 2, 3. The rattling spreads to other doors. The storage room where I found the wet footprints. The employee break room. Even the restroom door joins the symphony, handles turning and locks straining against their bolts. 21, 22, 23. Voices now, muffled by wood and steel but growing clearer. Men calling out in languages I recognize and others I don't. Some speak English with accents from decades past. Irish dock workers, Finnish loggers, Norwegian fishermen who came to Duluth when the lumber camps were still running and the iron mines were young. Let us in, keeper. We're so cold. Just for a moment, just to remember what warmth feels like. We won't hurt you. We just want to sit, to drink something hot, to pretend we're still alive. 67, 68, 69. The voices multiply, overlapping until they become a chorus of need. Some beg, others demand. A few just repeat their names over and over like they're afraid of forgetting who they used to be. The doors shake harder, and I hear splintering wood from somewhere. Maybe the storage room, maybe the break area. Something scrapes against the front window. Long, deliberate scratches, like fingernails dragging across glass. The sound sets my teeth on edge and makes my skin crawl with sympathetic sensation. 112, 113, 114. We know you're in there, keeper. We can smell the coffee, see the warmth. Why won't you share it? We shared everything when we were alive. A new voice, closer to the counter where I'm hiding. Eric sent us. Said his daughter promised to help. Said the new keeper would understand. I almost stand up at that. Almost call out that I spoke to Eric's wife, that I gave her the message about keeping the house. But something in the voice sounds wrong. Too eager, like a trap wrapped in good intentions. 181, 182, 183. The scratching on the window stops. The door rattling fades to sporadic attempts, half-hearted and weary. The voices begin to retreat, growing distant and echo-filled, like people walking away down a long tunnel. Another time, then. When the ice breaks up, maybe. The lake remembers patience. 278, 279, 280. The last voice lingers by the front door. Tell Astrid we're waiting. Tell her the deep water's warm once you stop fighting it. 298, 299, 300. Silence settles over the cafe like fresh snow. I stay crouched behind the counter for another minute, listening to my own heartbeat and the distant hum of refrigeration units. When I finally stand, my legs shake like a newborn colt's. The windows are covered in handprints, dozens of them, pressed against the glass from outside. Some look human-sized, others are too large or have too many fingers. A few are child-sized, small palms surrounded by what might be tentacle marks instead of regular finger impressions. But they're fading as I watch, evaporating like breath on a cold morning. Within minutes, the glass is clear again, leaving only faint traces of salt residue that could be from lake spray. I turn the lights back on and check the doors. All locked, all secure. No signs of damage despite the sounds of splintering wood I heard during the counting. The storage room door stands exactly as I left it, and when I test the handle, it turns easily under my hand. The protocol card feels heavier in my pocket now, weighted with purpose and warning. 3 more to go, and dawn still feels impossibly far away. I make myself a coffee, regular dark roast, nothing fancy, and settle at the counter to wait for whatever comes next. Outside, The harbor fog swirls in patterns that might be random, or might be the wakes of ships that exist only in memory, cutting through water that remembers every soul it's ever claimed. The radio behind the counter crackles once, softly, and I hear Tommy's voice whisper through the static. "Good job, Keeper. They'll respect you now." Respect. From the drowned dead of Lake Superior. I'm not sure if that's comforting or terrifying. Maybe both. At 5:17 a.m., the first trucker of the morning pushes through the door, bringing the smell of diesel fuel and road salt. He's a regular. Lars Gustafsson runs freight between Duluth and Grand Portage 3 times a week. Thick gray beard, flannel shirt stretched over a beer gut, boots worn down at the heels from too many miles walking loading docks. "Morning, kid," he says, settling onto a counter stool with a grunt. "Usual black coffee, and maybe one of those maple bars if they're fresh." I pour his coffee and grab a pastry from the case, grateful for something normal after the night I've had. Lars wraps his thick fingers around the mug and takes a long sip, sighing contentment. "Hell of a fog out there tonight," he says. "Couldn't see past my own headlights coming down from 2 harbors. Had to pull over twice just to get my bearings." "Lot of that going around," I say, wiping down the counter. "Strange thing, though." Lars tears the maple bar in half, steam rising from the sticky interior. Driving past the old Fitzgerald Memorial, I could swear I saw lights out on the water. Not Coast Guard or anything official. Looked more like running lights from the old ore boats. But that's crazy, right? Season doesn't start for another month, and even then, they don't run at night anymore. I pause mid-wipe. "What time was this?" "Maybe 20 minutes ago?" I was listening to the overnight freight reports on the CB, and the guys were all talking about it. Olson saw them near Split Rock. Peterson caught them off Beaver Bay. All describing the same thing, red and green lights moving in formation, like a convoy running dark water. The protocol card burns against my leg. I pull it out, checking the remaining instructions. Protocol 5. If someone reports seeing ship lights between 5 and 6 a.m., offer them a refill and ask them to wait. Excuse yourself to the storage room. Count the inventory 3 times. When you return, they will remember seeing something different. "Let me top you off," I say, reaching for the coffee pot. Lars nods, still chewing his maple bar. "Appreciate it. Long haul ahead to Grand Portage, and I could use the caffeine. Actually, could you wait here for just a minute? I need to check something in the back." "Sure thing, kid." I'm in no hurry. I head to the storage room, the same one where I found the wet footprints earlier. The door opens easily now, revealing stacks of coffee supplies and paper goods arranged in neat rows. Everything looks normal. No mysterious floor patches, no sounds from below. But I follow the protocol anyway. I start counting inventory, moving methodically through the supplies. 50 cases of coffee cups, 30 sleeves of double wall carriers, 20 boxes of sugar packets. When I finish the first count, I start again immediately. During the second count, I hear Lars talking to someone at the counter. His voice carries the easy familiarity of truckers sharing road stories, but I can't make out the other person's responses, if there are any responses at all. "Yeah, been running this route for 15 years now, and I ain't never seen anything like it. Looked like the old fleet was heading home one last time." I finish the second count and start the third, moving faster now. The storage room feels smaller somehow, the walls closer together, the ceiling lower. The air tastes of old wood and lake water, and something else. Machine oil, maybe, or the metallic tang of ore dust that used to coat everything in Duluth when the mines were running full. My grandfather worked the boats back in the day, Always said Lake Superior never gives up her dead. Maybe she don't give up her ships either. Third count, complete. I head back to the main cafe, expecting to find Lars chatting with another early customer. Instead, he's sitting alone at the counter, staring out the front window with a puzzled expression. "Everything okay?" I ask, settling behind the register. "Yeah, just... funny thing. I was telling you about those lights I saw, right? But now I'm thinking it must have been something else. Probably just the lighthouse beam reflecting off the fog. You know how it is when you've been driving all night. Your eyes start playing tricks." "That makes sense," I agree, refilling his coffee cup. "Course it does. Ships don't run at night this time of year, and they sure as hell don't run in formation like that." He shakes his head, chuckling at himself. Getting old, I guess. Seeing things that ain't there. But as he speaks, I notice something. The window behind him shows not the empty harbor I've been looking at all night, but water filled with lights. Dozens of them, moving in precise patterns across the lake surface. Red and green running lights, white masthead beacons, the warm yellow glow of pilot house windows. Ships from every era of Great Lakes shipping. Wooden schooners with oil lanterns, steel freighters with electric floods, modern bulk carriers with LED arrays. The ghost fleet of Lake Superior sailing past Duluth Harbor in a parade of memory and loss. Lars can't see them. The protocol worked. Whatever he witnessed on the road has been edited in his mind, replaced with a rational explanation that his conscious thoughts can accept. But the lights remain visible to me. The Night Keeper, the bridge between worlds. "Well," Lars says, finishing his coffee and dropping a $5 bill on the counter. "Better get moving. Thanks for the fuel and the company, kid. Drive safe out there. Always do." He heads for the door, then pauses with his hand on the handle. "You know, there's something different about this place at night. Can't put my finger on it, but it feels significant somehow. Like important things happen here." "Maybe they do," I say. He nods thoughtfully and steps into the pre-dawn darkness, diesel engine rumbling to life in the parking lot. As his taillights disappear up Superior Street, I turn back to the window. The ghost fleet has moved closer to shore now. I can make out individual vessels. The Edmund Margareta, with her distinctive white trim, the Iron Dawn listing slightly to port, but still maintaining formation. Smaller fishing boats and pleasure craft scattered between the larger ships like minnows swimming with whales. On the deck of the nearest freighter, figures wave at the cafe. Not frantically, not in distress, but with the casual friendliness of neighbors passing on a country road. I wave back, feeling ridiculous and profound at the same time. The radio behind the counter crackles to life. "Nightkeeper, this is the Margareta. Do you copy?" I grab the handset from its cradle. "This is the cafe." "I copy you, Margareta." "Jake, this is Eric Johansson. Tommy tells me you spoke with my wife tonight." "Yes, sir. She misses you. She kept everything just like you left it." A pause filled with static and distance. "I know she did. I've been watching over her when I can, but the lake keeps us tethered close. We can't stray far from the water." Through the window, I see a figure on the Margarita's bridge raise a hand to his forehead and salute. "Tell me about Astrid. How is she handling all this?" "She's at the breakwater. Tommy said she's planning to join you at dawn." "That's what we were afraid of. Astrid's a good night keeper, one of the best we've had, but she's been carrying this burden too long. 23 years of midnight calls and supernatural customers takes its toll on the living." "What can I do?" "Be ready for Protocol 6. It's the hardest one. the test that determines whether you're truly suited for this work. Astrid passed it 23 years ago, but barely. Some keepers don't survive it at all. The ghost fleet begins to fade as dawn approaches, running lights dimming like dying stars. Eric's voice grows fainter through the radio static. Protocol 6 comes at the moment between night and day, when the veil is thinnest. You'll have to choose, Jake, whether to serve the living or the dead, whether to keep the door closed or open it wide. What happens if I choose wrong? There is no wrong choice. Eric's voice whispers through the static. Only consequences. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. Some bridges, once crossed, leave you stranded on the far shore. The radio falls silent. Outside, the last of the ghost ships disappears into morning fog, leaving only the empty harbor and the growing light of dawn. But on the counter sits something that wasn't there before. A small wooden box, weathered by years of lake spray and carved with initials, EJ plus MK 1977. Inside the box, wrapped in oilcloth, are 2 photographs. The first shows a young man in a ship's uniform standing beside a pretty woman in a wedding dress. The second is more recent. The same woman, older now, gray-haired and wearing wire-rimmed glasses, sitting at table 7 in this very café. Astrid's stepmother, Eric's wife, the keeper of memories, and the guardian of hope. At the bottom of the box, a note in careful handwriting. For the new keeper. Remember us. I check the clock. 5:47 a.m. 13 minutes until Protocol 6, and whatever test awaits me in the space between darkness and light. At exactly 6 a.m., every light in the cafe dies. Not the flicker and fade of electrical problems, but an instant plunge into absolute darkness that swallows even the emergency exit signs. The coffee machines fall silent mid-brew. The refrigeration units stop humming. Even the digital clock above the register goes blank, its red numbers disappearing like stars snuffed out. I fumble for my phone's flashlight, but the screen won't respond to my touch. Dead battery, maybe, or something more fundamental, like the rules of physics taking a coffee break. In the darkness, footsteps approach from outside. Not the heavy boots from Protocol 4, but lighter steps, measured and familiar. They stop at the front door. "Jake?" Astrid's voice, muffled by glass. "I need you to let me in." I feel my way to the protocol card, fingers tracing the laminated surface, until I find the last entries. Protocol 6. At dawn, if someone you know asks to be let in, do not open the door immediately. Ask them 3 questions first. What they want, where they've been, and what they're willing to sacrifice. Only open the door if you can accept their answers. Protocol 7. After Protocol 6, you choose. "Astrid," I call out, moving carefully toward the front of the cafe, hands extended to avoid colliding with furniture. "I need to ask you some questions first." "Of course you do." Her voice carries a smile, but underneath it runs a current of something else, sadness maybe, or relief. "Ask away." "What do you want?" "To say goodbye properly. To make sure you understand what you're inheriting. To pass along something that can't be written on a protocol card." "Where have you been?" "At the breakwater, talking with my father." "With my husband. Did I mention I was married once?" Coast Guard lieutenant named David Corhonen. His cutter went down in a November storm, 1993. He's been waiting for me almost as long as I've been listening to the radio calls. The temperature in the cafe drops 20 degrees in seconds. My breath mists in the darkness, and frost begins forming on the inside of the windows. "What are you willing to sacrifice?" Everything. Her voice grows softer, more distant. My warmth, my breath, my connection to solid ground. 23 years of carrying messages between the living and the dead. And I'm tired, Jake. So very tired of being the bridge. I want to cross over, to join them in the deep water where the cold doesn't matter and time moves like currents instead of clocks. I reach for the door handle, then stop. Something about her answers feels incomplete, like a song missing its final verse. Astrid, there's something else I need to know. Why me? Why did you hire me so quickly? Silence stretches between us, filled only by the sound of waves that shouldn't be audible from inside the cafe. When she speaks again, her voice comes from a different place, not through the door, but from somewhere behind me, near the coffee station. Because you remind me of myself at 23, lost, looking for purpose, willing to accept strange jobs in stranger places. And because the lake chose you before you ever walked into my office. I spin around, but the darkness reveals nothing. Her voice continues, now coming from the direction of table 7. The first night you worked here, you dreamed about drowning, didn't you? About sinking into cold, dark water while voices called your name? She's right. I've forgotten about the dream until now. One of those middle-of-the-night visions that fade with dawn but leave you feeling unsettled for days. Everyone who becomes a night keeper has that dream. It's the lake's way of testing compatibility, of seeing who can handle the weight of all those lost souls pressing against the surface of consciousness. Light begins to return. Not electric illumination, but the pale gray glow of dawn seeping through fog-covered windows. In the growing brightness, I can see Astrid clearly for the first time tonight. She stands beside table 7, but she's not quite solid. Water drips steadily from her hair, her clothes, pooling at her feet without leaving marks on the tile floor. Her skin has the blue-white pallor of hypothermia, and her eyes reflect light like a cat's, or like someone who spent too much time staring into dark water. "You're already gone, aren't you?" I ask. Not gone. Transformed. The lake doesn't take people, Jake. It changes them, makes them part of something larger. I can still help, still serve as a bridge, but from the other side now, from the place where all the lost ships gather, and all the drowned souls find peace. She moves toward the front door, her footsteps making no sound. As she walks, she becomes more translucent, more ethereal, until she's barely a shimmer in the pale morning light. "The choice is yours now," she says, her hand resting on the door handle from the inside. "You can open this door and accept the full responsibility of being night keeper, taking the calls, serving the supernatural customers, carrying messages between the living and the dead. Or you can walk away, find a normal job in a normal place, and let someone else inherit the burden." What happens to the cafe if I leave? It waits. It's waited before, during the gaps between keepers. The calls go unanswered, the lost souls grow more restless, and the boundary between worlds grows thinner. Eventually, someone always comes along who can handle the responsibility, but sometimes that takes years, and the town suffers in the meantime. Through the windows, I can see the harbor clearly now. The fog is lifting, revealing water that stretches to the horizon like hammered steel. Near the breakwater, a figure walks steadily toward the lake's edge. Another Astrid, solid and real, following the path she chose when she decided to join the drowned. "If I stay," I ask, "what happens to you?" I become what I was always meant to be, a guardian of the deep water, a voice on the radio for future night keepers, a bridge between the surface world and the realm where lost ships sail eternal routes through dark currents. The choice crystallizes in my mind with startling clarity. I could leave, clock out, drive back to Minneapolis, find work that doesn't involve serving coffee to dead people, or taking radio calls from ships that sank decades ago, return to a world where the strangest thing I'd encounter would be a difficult customer or a broken espresso machine. But I think about Tommy Kowalski, broadcasting from the pilot house of the Iron Dawn for 42 years, hoping someone would answer. About Eric Johansson, watching over his wife from the deck of the Margareta, unable to tell her he's okay. About the widow who waited at table 7, needing to hear that her husband knew she kept the house exactly like he left it. I think about Lars Gustafsson, who saw ghost ships and had his memory gently edited so he could sleep at night. About all the other people who might wander into this cafe carrying grief or guilt or hope, needing someone who understands that some losses echo across decades and some love transcends death. "I'll stay," I say, reaching for the door handle. Astrid smiles, really smiles, for the first time since I've known her. "I hoped you would. You're going to be a good night keeper, Jake. Maybe even better than I was." I turn the lock and pull the door open. Cold air rushes in, carrying the scent of lake water and the distant sound of ship horns. Astrid steps backward through the doorway, becoming less solid with each step until she's nothing more than morning mist, touched with the faintest outline of a woman. "The protocols will change," her voice whispers from the fog. "New rules will develop as you learn the job. Trust your instincts, listen to the radio calls, and remember, you're not just serving coffee. You're serving hope." The mist dissipates, leaving me alone in the doorway with the morning light streaming across the harbor. In the distance, the breakwater stands empty. No figure walking toward the lake's edge. No final goodbye to witness. But on the radio behind the counter, Tommy Kowalski's voice crackles through the static. "Welcome to the deep shift, Night Keeper. We're glad to have you aboard." I close the door and turn the lock, sealing myself inside the cafe with its ancient responsibilities and supernatural customers. The lights flicker back to life, the coffee machines resume their brewing cycles, and the digital clock above the register begins counting time again. 6:23 a.m. 3 hours and 37 minutes until my shift officially ends. Plenty of time to learn the real job. The morning shift arrives at 7:30 sharp. 2 college students named Maya and Connor, who've been working days for 6 months without ever suspecting what happens after they clock out. Maya chatters about her statistics midterm, while Connor restocks the pastry case with fresh donuts and muffins from the delivery truck. "You look tired," Maya observes, tying her apron around her waist. "Rough night? You could say that." I pour myself one last coffee before heading to the back office to complete my shift paperwork. A few unusual customers, but nothing I couldn't handle. Connor glances up from arranging bear claws. Weird how quiet it gets after midnight. Sometimes I wonder what kind of people are awake that late, you know. If only he knew. I finish my paperwork and gather my jacket, but something stops me at the back door. The storage room key feels warm in my hand, almost alive. When I turn it in the lock and step inside, everything looks different than it did a few hours ago. The boxes of supplies remain stacked in their neat rows, but now I can see other things between them. Artifacts that belong to different decades, different lives. A ship's compass sitting atop a case of coffee filters. A lighthouse keeper's logbook wedged between boxes of sugar packets. A child's toy boat, carved from driftwood and painted with colors that have faded to ghost-pale suggestions. These weren't here during my inventory counts for Protocol 5. Or maybe they were, and I just couldn't see them until I accepted my role as night keeper. I pick up the compass, feeling its brass weight in my palm. The needle spins lazily before settling on a direction that has nothing to do with magnetic north. It points toward the harbor, toward the deep water where the ghost fleet sails its eternal routes. "They're gifts," a voice says behind me. "Tokens of appreciation from the passengers you'll serve." I turn to find a woman standing in the doorway. Not quite solid, but more substantial than Astrid had been in her final moments. She wears a 1940s dress with pearl buttons and has victory rolls in her auburn hair. A small pin on her collar shows an anchor surrounded by stars. "I'm Dorothy Henley," she says. "My husband went down with the Carl Bradley in 1958. I've been waiting tables at the Anchor Bar in Detroit for 64 years, serving coffee to sailors' wives who never got to say goodbye." "You're a night keeper too?" "Was. The bar closed last month. Developers tore it down for condominiums. 64 years of late-night conversations with widows and mothers, and now there's nowhere for them to go." She gestures at the artifacts around us. "So I thought I'd visit other keepers, see how they manage their responsibilities." Dorothy walks through the storage room, examining the collected items with the practiced eye of someone who understands their significance. This compass belonged to Captain Henrik Larsson, Swedish freighter captain who ran aground in a blizzard near Isle Royale. The logbook is from Keeper Thomas McKinnon, who tended the lighthouse at Split Rock until the Coast Guard automated it. And this little boat. She picks up the carved toy with infinite gentleness. Made by a father for his son, both of them passengers on the Eastland when she rolled over in the Chicago River. Why are they here? Because this cafe has become a nexus, a place where the living and dead can meet safely, where messages can pass between worlds without causing harm. Every artifact represents a story you might need to understand, a life you might need to honor. She sets the toy boat back in its place among the supply boxes. Being the night keeper isn't just about serving supernatural customers and taking radio calls. It's about becoming a repository of memory, a guardian of stories that would otherwise be forgotten. How many of us are there? Fewer than there used to be. Cities change, old buildings get torn down, people stop believing in things they can't explain. When I started in Detroit, there were 12 active keepers around the Great Lakes. Now there are maybe 5. If the network of night keepers is shrinking, the burden on the remaining ones grows heavier. More lost souls, more unanswered calls, more grief seeking comfort in the small hours when the world feels most fragile. Is there training? Some kind of manual beyond the protocol cards? Dorothy laughs, a sound like silver bells in fog. The job teaches itself, honey. Every night brings new lessons, new challenges. The protocols are just starting points, guidelines to keep you safe while you learn to navigate between worlds. She moves toward the storage room entrance, becoming less solid as she walks. But remember this: the living need you just as much as the dead. Maybe more. The supernatural customers know what they are, what they want. It's the breathing people who come in carrying invisible wounds, seeking something they can't name. Like the widow at table 7. Exactly. She needed to hear that her husband was okay, that her 40 years of waiting meant something. You gave her that gift. Dorothy pauses at the threshold. The artifacts will help you understand the stories behind the supernatural encounters. Read the log book when you have quiet moments. Study the compass bearings. They'll show you where the ghost ships travel. And that little boat. Well, sometimes children get lost too, and they need someone to help them find their way home. she fades completely, leaving me alone among the collected memories of the Great Lakes' lost souls. I pocket the compass and head back through the café, where Maya and Connor continue their morning routine, oblivious to the conversation that just took place 10 feet away. "See you tonight, Jake," Maya calls as I head for the front door. Tonight. Another 8-hour shift of serving coffee to the living and the dead, of taking radio calls from sunken ships, of carrying messages across the boundary between worlds. The prospect should terrify me, but instead I feel something unexpected. Anticipation. I drive home through Duluth's awakening streets, past the ore docks where massive ships used to load iron pellets for the steel mills of Detroit and Chicago. The compass in my pocket grows warm whenever I pass a spot where someone died in the water. The harbor where the Margareta went down. The shipping channel where a dozen smaller vessels rest in the mud. The breakwater where Astrid walked into the lake to join her father and husband. My apartment feels strange after the night's revelations. Too quiet, too ordinary. I make breakfast and try to sleep, but every time I close my eyes, I see ghost ships sailing past the harbor in perfect formation, their running lights cutting through fog thick enough to walk on. At 3 p.m., I give up on sleep and drive back to Superior Street. The cafe won't open for afternoon customers for another hour, but I have a key now and responsibilities that don't follow normal business hours. I let myself in through the back door and head straight for the storage room. The artifacts remain exactly where Dorothy left them, but now there's something new. A leather-bound journal sitting atop the lighthouse keeper's logbook. The cover bears my name in script that looks like waves carved in dark wood. Inside, the first page contains a single entry, written in Astrid's familiar handwriting. Day 1. Welcome to the deep shift, Jake. The lake chose well. Below her words, space waits for my own entries. Stories I'll collect. Calls I'll answer. Lives I'll help heal in the hours between midnight and dawn, when the veil grows thin and the lost souls call out for someone to remember their names. I pick up a pen and begin writing my first entry as the newest night keeper of Duluth Harbor, guardian of memories and bridge between the living and the dead. The entry in my journal from last Tuesday reads, Customer number 47, elderly man, asked for Sailor's Luck Blend. Served Ethiopian dark roast with a pinch of Lake Superior salt. He paid with a 1962 silver dollar and left his merchant marine pin on table 3. Radio contact confirmed. USS William Clay Ford, lost off Thunder Bay, 1964. Tonight, the cafe feels different. Not haunted. I've learned the difference between haunted and inhabited. The Tim Hortons on Superior Street is inhabited by purpose, by connection, by the quiet satisfaction of work that matters in ways most people never understand. At 2:17 a.m., the red phone rings. I answer on the 7th ring of the 3rd sequence without checking the protocol card. Some things become muscle memory after enough repetitions. Nightkeeper, this is Tommy Kowalski, Iron Dawn. How are you holding up? Good evening, Tommy. I'm managing just fine. Course you are. Got a message for you from the Margareta. Eric says his wife visited her doctor yesterday. Heart checkup came back clear. She's doing better since you passed along his words. I smile, adding this information to my mental catalog of ongoing stories. That's wonderful news. Tell Eric I'm glad to hear it. Will do. Oh, and Dorothy Hemley wanted me to mention, she's found a new posting. Coffee shop in Port Huron, right near the Blue Water Bridge. Owner's been having strange dreams about lighthouse beams and foghorns. Another keeper recruited. Another nexus established. The network grows stronger instead of weaker. After Tommy signs off, I returned to organizing the new artifacts that appeared over the weekend. A ship's bell from the Kamloops, a pocket watch stopped at 11:43, a child's mitten knitted in wool that still smells faintly of wood smoke and home cooking. Each item tells a story I'm still learning to read. The door chimes at 3:33 a.m. A young woman enters, mid-20s, wearing scrubs and tennis shoes worn thin at the heels. She has the hollow-eyed look of someone working double shifts to pay off student loans and keep her head above water. "Are you still serving?" she asks, glancing nervously at the late hour. "Always. What can I get you?" "Just coffee. Black. I've got 4 more hours left on my shift at St. Mary's, and I'm running on fumes." I pour her a large dark roast, adding the slightest touch of warmth that goes beyond temperature. The kind of comfort that seeps into bones tired from caring for others. She wraps her fingers around the cup and sighs deeply. "Rough night at the hospital. Lost a patient. Elderly gentleman came in with chest pains. We did everything we could, but..." She shakes her head. "His family said he'd been talking about his brother all week. Brother who died in some kind of shipping accident back in the 70s. My attention sharpens. What was the patient's name? Kowalski. Vincent Kowalski. Kept asking for someone named Tommy, wanting to apologize for something that happened 40 years ago. The pieces click together like tumblers in a lock. Vincent Kowalski, Tommy's younger brother, the one who didn't follow the family tradition of working the ore boats, the one Tommy mentioned during our radio conversations, voice heavy with regret over harsh words spoken before the Iron Dawn's final voyage. He found peace, I tell the nurse, meaning it completely. His brother was waiting for him. She looks at me strangely but doesn't question the certainty in my voice. Some truths don't require explanation, only acceptance. She finishes her coffee and leaves a generous tip, walking back into the pre-dawn darkness with steadier steps than when she arrived. Through the window, I watch her headlights disappear toward the hospital, carrying a small piece of comfort into her remaining hours of caring for the living. The radio crackles softly. Tommy's voice, distant but clear. "Nightkeeper?" Vincent made it aboard. The Iron Dawn's got her full crew again, after 42 years. "Thank you." I settle back behind the counter and open my journal to a fresh page. The compass in my pocket points steadily toward the harbor, where ghost ships sail their eternal routes and lost souls find their way home through the kindness of strangers working the night shift in a coffee shop that serves more than coffee. Outside, snow begins to fall on the still waters of Lake Superior, each flake a small blessing on the surface of memory.